Dentistry in General Radio Network presents
The Bald Truth, the Dental Politics Podcast with Dr. Bob Dee and Dr. Spencer Bloom. In this episode,
I appeal to the ADA and its leaders to try to make some sense and be more transparent, forthcoming, and help us understand, because otherwise I have witnessed things that are bad decisions that I think have hurt or could hurt us. I am afraid that without proactive energy from the ADA, we're going to go the way of the AMA and the practice of medicine and see the enlargement of the big business of dentistry, just like in medicine. My motto is I serve our profession to preserve our profession for future dentists.
the ADA, insurance, and the future of dentistry, a candid discussion.
Hello, everyone. This is Bob Dee. I'm here with Spencer Bloom. We are a couple of dentists who are vocal about organized dentistry, and this is our first episode, officially our first sit-down with Spencer to discuss what's important in organized dentistry. This is the only podcast that discusses organized dentistry in a candid way. What do you think?
Probably. I think our passion is above average. I think our insider take on things is different and maybe better. And I think our willingness to fight for an ADA that we wish we had comes with more passion than most. So I think our discussions will be spirited and hit a lot of nails on the head. We'll be providing good information for them.
You know, I want to first talk about the two of us, who we are. You know, obviously, I'm the founder of the Dentistry in General platform that has the Facebook group and the YouTube channel, but I don't think many know who Spencer is. Tell me a little about how you defend the ADA, because I know when people say, oh, they got their hands in the pocket of the insurance companies, it offends people. It offends people like you that literally leaves their practice. You know, you dedicated your life to this and you're not getting paid. You're spending your own money actually doing this kind of stuff. Tell me a little about your sense of volunteerism for organized dentistry.
Well, I am a strong advocate, and I have bad reactions against people who insinuate that the ADA's actions and inactions are based on people being paid off to be on the side of insurance or on the side of big dentistry. And I don't believe anyone's being paid off. I think I'm seeing good intentions implemented poorly. I think we're seeing optics that stink. And when people are not understanding what they're seeing and it doesn't make sense, their first knee-jerk reaction is, oh, they're being paid off, and I get defensive of the ADA. No, they're making mistakes for sure. And yes, I agree with you, the optics stink, but that's not the reason. Sometimes I don't know the reason, and sometimes I'm willing to say, I don't know the reason. They're not making sense to me either. And I appeal to the ADA and its leaders to try to make some sense and be more transparent and forthcoming and help us understand, because otherwise I have witnessed things that are bad decisions that I think have hurt or could hurt us. And one of the big motivating things behind me is I am afraid that without proactive energy from the ADA, we're going to go the way of the AMA and the practice of medicine and see the enlargement of the big business of dentistry, just like in medicine. And my motto is I serve our profession to preserve our profession for future dentists. So we need the ADA. I want the ADA, and I want people who aren't happy to be in the ADA to join me as a member who is disgruntled and to express what bothers me and why, and try to get people to listen to us with the understanding we want a better ADA. I'm not looking for an alternative. The ADA is our best thing going, and so my energy comes from there.
Yeah. You know, maybe we should spend this episode talking about why ADA is important. I think that's a good base we can go on. You know, I tell people when they, you know, and I was one of them. I'm here to say that I'm guilty of saying those unreasonable things. But when you think about it, if they take money from anyone, it's racketeering. You can go to jail, you know. So and although I disagree with a lot of the things that are going on in the ADA and a lot of the leadership decisions, I do believe every single one thinks that they're doing the best they can for the profession. They may have different path that they're taking that Spence and I don't agree with, but I don't think they're malicious. I think they are misguided, in my opinion, in a lot of different things. I think a lot of egos are involved, that we're never wrong, right? The best thing a leader can do is when they make a mistake, in my opinion, is to come and accept it and say, hey, you know what? We did make a mistake. Let's work together to fix it. But I want to ask you, Spencer, about this fact that what happens when the ADA goes away, as so many people suggest online. And they're like, oh, just burn it down, start over again. I don't get it. It's not realistic. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, in my days of trying to defend the ADA and trying to get people as members, I've noticed that there's a few categories, starting with people who have no idea what the ADA does. And so it's, why don't they do this? Why don't they do that? And half the time they are doing it. It's just they don't know. Non-members especially, they have no clue what the ADA does, what they're trying to do, what they've tried, what they've succeeded at, what they failed at. They just have no idea. They're shouting with just lack of information. And they're angry that they don't know what they do, so they think they're worthless. I tell them, if you want to know, you have to be a member.
Yeah, but Spence, I got to defend those people as well, okay? I mean, I've looked at salaries. We have a communication department that are paid very well. We have a lot of people employed by the ADA to do the job of communicating with people. If a member doesn't know what the ADA does, whose fault is that? I understand you and I are different. We're going to go look for that. But if your existence depends on membership, wouldn't you want to advertise that you did such a great thing? Why would Bob D has to create a website to put these things on his own website, the good things that the ADA has done? I mean, do you see a problem with the communication of the ADA?
Yes. And yet I also see a problem with people who want other people to do their research. They just tend to come up with a point of view that I don't know what they do, so I don't think they do anything. They're worthless. And I maintain that the ADA has a breadth and a depth way beyond what most people know, and it's beyond what I know. It takes a lot of time and effort inside to know what the ADA is composed of, what their missions are, and there are multiple missions. Don't forget they do testing to get into dental school. They get testing to get out of dental school. They accredit, they research products and qualify them, and they work with standards, and they do our codes, and there's a long list of things they do that if someone succeeded in getting rid of the ADA, we'd be sorry. They really do support our profession in ways that people don't realize. But communication, yes, my argument with communication is they allow bad optics time and time again. There isn't a commitment amongst the staff and some of the higher up leaders to curate a good image for the ADA. And when I call them out, when you call them out, they don't have a good response. They don't appreciate being called. They'll just double down and say, don't tell us what to do. But their image hurts them. And I think their image hurts them more than their level of dues. So, if membership is going down, I think there's a lot of people who used to belong, didn't like the optics, and said, no, I don't want to spend my money on that. So communication is key, yes.
But it's also more than optics, right? I want everybody to know that Spence and I are both in the Chicago area, and sometimes our wives are yelling at us because at 1 o'clock in the morning, we're going through these discussions. The idea of this podcast came about from those phone calls late at night. So I'm going to play the devil's advocate for you, Dr. Bloom. It's more than optics. People are hurting, right? Insurance fees are basically not keeping up with inflation. And people look and see, hey, our organized dentistry, are they doing anything? And if something comes up, such as the dental loss ratio, what did they do? Did they help it? Sure. They helped in the beginning. They paid and passed it in Massachusetts. But they did a lot of things that it's more than optics, right? Optics usually means a good thing is going on, but you just don't present it well. But there's some bad things that they do that needs to be corrected. What's your take on that?
Well, there again, one category of of a dentist who is complaining against the ADA has a misconception about what they can do. Insurance contracts are insurance contracts that they signed. And so there is a degree to which there are people with unrealistic expectations. Now, when you come to the DLR, I think that's the greatest thing since sliced bread. The idea that we can turn around the paradigm so insurance companies want to take care of their beneficiaries, they want to spend money for patient care, that really opened my eyes. In fact, it excited everyone in dentistry. They got every state to throw some money into the pot to try to make sure that ballot initiative was won. And what they did after that was so disappointing. You're right. That's more than optics. They acted as if they had no idea what Massachusetts just achieved. They went and agreed to something that went in the opposite direction, pretty much said to insurance companies, do what you've been doing, but we want to take care of the worst of them. We know some of them are at the bottom of the barrel, and they're what they said yes to was more than that.
But it's even more reason to be a member. People are talking about dropping out, and I want to talk about, okay, then what? What is the plan? Start a new organization? Okay, let me play it out for you. I'll start an organization tomorrow morning, Spence, you and I, the Bob and Spence Dental Association, okay? And we're going to set our fees at $500. How many people can we get to join us, Spence? 100? 200? 1,000?
What are we offering?
We're going to offer whatever we can afford. And that's the point. If I get 1,000 people to join, that's $500,000, Spence. I mean, what are we going to do with that? I want everybody listening to this podcast to stop saying, let's get rid of them. This ADA, I've always said this, doesn't belong to one person, one set of leadership. I want people to understand that thousands of dentists have contributed to this organization, and they've built it. There is no reason we should throw the baby out with the bathwater. And I feel like you feel the same way, right?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. So let's talk about something that is in the news, non-dues revenues, right? My take on the whole thing is that, yes, we do need some revenues to come in from different places, but we need to be very careful when they're coming from. And the higher that limit is, the less accountability we have to members. In other words, I believe reduction of income from dues will reduce the accountability of the organization to its members. What are your thoughts on that?
I think I know where you're going, and it's a double-edged sword. Yes, we need non-dues revenue, otherwise our dues will double. In order to do what we're doing, we need a certain operating budget, and that's a different discussion as to what's in that budget and what things, what it means to us. But the concept of non-dues revenue is very important. What has been changing over the last 10 years or more, recent history, is a hyper-focus on it. A hyper-focus that kind of pretends like the ADA's leaders aren't part of the problem, that the economy is part of the problem, that young dentists aren't joiners is part of the problem. There's all kinds of things for why membership is down, and they're not looking at themselves, they're not looking inward. And so their reliance on non-dues revenue is getting hyper-focused, and it's ending up exactly where you said. The satisfaction of members is secondary, maybe tertiary, and that's wrong. We think it's supposed to be a member-driven organization for our dentists and their practices and their patients. We need to control non-dues revenue in the sense that it should be supplementary, not dominant. And I see it going as dominant. I think they're going the way of, if we don't need members, boy, what can we do? And I don't like that. They shouldn't be doing that.
Right. Do you see my screen?
I'm seeing it now. Yep.
Okay. Take a look at the total revenue of 139.7 million. Right? That's our total revenue. Membership dues are 58. Non-dues revenues are 81.
Right.
And this is from the House of Delegates report of the Treasurer. And membership dues don't even cover employees' salaries. It's just amazing to me. Consultants and purchase services. Do we have a list of these? I mean, I don't know. I don't run a big organization. We have 139 million total revenue, and our expenses are 147. And our biggest expense, one of the biggest expense, is employees. And I don't know what to make of this. Someone just sent this to me. And yeah, I mean, it is what it is. We need non-dues revenues. There's no doubt in my mind that even you and I get our ways, which probably never happen, we will still need to have some kind of non-dues revenues. But I think we can do better.
For sure. Non-dues revenues are necessary. I have no argument against them. I'm not a big fan of analyzing the numbers because I don't know enough. But I do see your point. If the operating budget is 61% paying for employees, that doesn't sound right. I mean, that wouldn't work in a dental practice. It shouldn't. It doesn't work here, and something is wrong with that. For sure.
61 million out of the 147. 61 million is basically employee packages in 2023. And 2024, it seems to be forecasting at 64.7. I mean, that's probably about 40%, I would think. Yeah, I mean, again, I am not qualified to say if that's high or that's low, right? We need to recognize that. I'm not going to sit here and criticize them for paying this person this much and that much. But I want to tell you something. Money doesn't matter if you have results. Right? If you are doing such great work that your members are happy, it doesn't matter how much who gets paid or what the budget is. People start looking into things when we are hurting as wet glove finger dentists. You see what I'm saying? That is what I want to talk about, because people talk about money all the time, and I know you sometimes criticize me when I say, I've known to be calling some organized dentistry people the wedding planners, but I want results. I don't care if you have 3 parties a night, but show me what you've done for me lately. Talk to me about that, Spence.
I agree completely. The complaints that we're not getting, that dues are not worth it, starts begetting the search for where's the money going and what are they spending it on, and it's not worth it. And there's a lot of fault with transparency, communication, and the numbers are really kind of large. There are some employees that are paid a lot of money, and I don't think there should be a communication problem. They're paid well enough. Why aren't they getting that job done? Why aren't we aware of some of these benefits? How come I'm like the only one ever telling people, we have a library. You can get your money's worth by just using the library benefit. And the ADA itself doesn't promote that unique benefit. There's a lot of things that aren't on their radar that bother me because people are disgruntled.
Yeah.
And it all seems to point to very similar things. And they're not addressing, they don't care if we're disgruntled, and they especially don't need to care if they keep finding non-dues revenue to make up for it.
And that's the key, right?
Yes.
I mean, these corporate partnerships, these non-dues revenues are coming into play and discussions because people are not joining, and nobody asks, why aren't they joining? People go, let's replace the revenue. That is the problem. I don't want a Mercedes-Benz lease. I don't want the credit union. They look at value so differently, Spence. They look at value. They think, the new generation looks at this. The new generation is exactly like the old generation. Give them 2 years and they will think exactly like us, right? Nobody cares about getting their money's worth, the $1,500 on average that we pay, through tangible things, right? Give me intangible things in Washington, D.C., and I get people paying year after year, and I'll bring you members back up to 80%. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, you hit some nails right on the head. The mindset there is that we are their customers. We're not members in a professional organization. We are customers of a business called the ADA. And, well, I kind of get that. They always sold, the patient information pamphlets. They always sold the code book. I get that. But their hyper-focus on what they can sell us as opposed to what can they do that nobody else can do for us, and driven by what we need and want. It's frustrating that they want to make me a customer and figure out how to sell to me. They need, among other things, number one, is make sure we don't go the way of the AMA and the practice of medicine. I mean, really, that kind of incorporates non-dues revenue, because hyper-focus on non-dues revenue is why the AMA still exists. The AMA has business income that doesn't rely on members. There's a mindset in some of the ADA that says our job is to make sure that our employees have a job. And part of their job is being dismissed, which is to support us, to make sure that when we need insurance reform, that it doesn't take the shape of the NCOIL model, that it takes the shape of real insurance reform. They're all looking at us as customers. What can they do? In fact, I think the bottom line of this corporate partnership is actually tied into that concept. I think this corporate partnership thing is, in the end, to develop products they can sell to us. Again, that mindset of we're the customers, and that's what they want to do. How do they not care about the slap in the face that they're being corporate partners with the companies that exploit dentists and their patients? How does that not? How does someone not put the axe on that and say, no, let's call it something else, because that's not going to go well. That's not a good thing to call it. Let's call it something else, or let's not call it anything. Let's just privately ask them to donate to research and give them first rights to licensing, whatever the reason, without making a big stink in front of our faces. I mean,
we need to discuss what we're talking about, because I'm not sure if everybody listening to this podcast knows what we're talking about. The American Dental Association had a press release recently that announced some corporate partnerships. Those who are in my group, Facebook group, know that we criticized it, and there were some other emails and letters that defended it and attacked me personally for being, I don't know, what was it that they used?
Conflict entrepreneur.
Or what else? No, click for money or something like that, because we criticize. Yeah, I mean, again, I want everybody to know that I have offered an olive branch to those who attacked me, because we need to work together. But this letter, this press release, announced corporate partnership, and I'm quoting exactly from the letter. Those were the words that they used: corporate partnership, and some of those partners are the Association of Dental Support Organizations, some of the insurance companies that we have actually sued, based on what I hear from the ADA, that we've sued them in every state, and then some of the companies, some of these big companies that were fined tens of millions of dollars by the government because they colluded against dentists. And these are our corporate partnerships. As Spence said, call it a roundtable, right, Spence? Or why do we need to announce it? Why? I mean, this is the optics we're talking about. Go talk to them and see what our pain points are and help us. I don't need a partner, right? I don't want to, I only have one partner, right? My wife. I don't know how many partners you have, Spence. Partnership, the word partnership scares the hell out of me.
It represents, on the face of it, I don't see how it cannot be seen as a conflict of interest. If these businesses, including private equity, DSO organization, insurance companies, these companies that we are advocating against to try to be kinder to dentists and our patients, to try to stop exploiting us in the ways that they do, how can they be partners? How can the ADA possibly support dentists and these entities at the same time? That is, by definition, a conflict of interests. Now, some people aren't thinking clearly. They're thinking I'm accusing them of selling us out. No, a conflict of interest just says they have a conflict of interest. And that is exactly what they have. If they make certain moves, the other party will say, why'd you make that move? That's not in our favor. And right. With that lawsuit that has been years in the making, we're hoping it'll come to court, I think, the end of this year. Whatever the outcome is, if it's not a great outcome,
they're your partners, right?
Yeah. If it's not a great outcome for us, there is no way to not suspect that they went with the conflict the other way. They kind of chose a side. They shouldn't be in a relationship with the two opposing parties. That's just wrong on the face of it. There's no way to justify it.
Yeah, and I want to close by this, that I think, to be honest with you, I think if they could go back and change it, I think they would use a different word because we all got offended.
They could have. And not one thing where we have a suggestion, we tell them what harms us, what hurts us, the optics that bother us. Not one thing have they said, you've got a good point. We're going to try to do better. Bob, can you name a handful of things where they listened and said, you're right, you make some good sense, we'll go back to the drawing board? Anything, Bob?
They're never wrong, Spence. We're the ones that are always wrong. They're not, you why don't you shut up and sit down? And you're always wrong. You're just yapping, Spencer. And I'm just the social media click for money guy. Anyways, I want to tell you that I believe, and this is a hunch, I'm not sure, I believe someone made a mistake of asking an AI model to write a title for them, and they used the word partnership, and nobody checked it. Isn't that the typical? Like the articles that go into magazines, editorials, nobody checks these things. And that's when people say, if you make the same mistake over and over and over again, they're going to think different things that don't make sense to you and I. They think we're Kool-Aid drinkers by saying, oh, no, man, they all have good intentions. But they constantly do the same mistakes. How do you explain that?
It's a mindset. It's a mindset at the top that can be characterized as an us versus them. They refuse to listen to see that we want a better ADA. We want people to belong. We want to be happy with what they show us. We want to be happy with their decisions. We want to be proud that I'm paying. I want to be proud that I'm paying dues. I want to know that the profession of dentistry and the practice of dentistry is still there for the next generation. I don't want that next generation to have to come back and say, please, let's fight for the dentists now. Let's form a union since they're all going to be employees. I don't want that future, and I want the satisfaction today of hearing a little bit of give and take of, okay, we heard you, let's do something that makes that makes people less upset. Let's let people know that we hear, we listen, we respect your opinion. We're not getting it. It's the us, them, time after time after time.
Hey, I want to thank you for being here with me and starting our show. We want to do this on a weekly basis. We want to bring you the news. And part of this podcast is educating not just the members, but also informing the non-members. We want to inform you of the things that can be done and is being done a lot of times by the ADA, that you must join and support us to help them find the right path. We also want this podcast to be an educational source for our delegates. So when you go to the House of Delegates and you want to listen to topic that is going to be discussed in the reference committees, we're going to have an episode on it. This is going to be, in my opinion, a game changer for dental politics, and I'm asking my friend Spence to join me week after week to do this.
My pleasure. I think it's a valuable source of information. I hope that we are accurate in everything we say, and I hope that we have a point of view that's reasonable and that people can say, okay, I get your point of view. I can respect someone who disagrees as long as they understood what I said. The frustration with the leaders is they're not listening, and so I have no idea if they know what I even said. They want to just say, I'm not at the top. I don't really have a valid voice, and that's wrong. All members should be listened to because it's possible that they have a good idea.
Yes. And the midwinter meeting is coming up. Let's give a plug to the Chicago Dental Society, our local organization. I hear that they're going to contribute more to advocacy, and they have plans. I'm happy to hope for that. I'm not announcing anything. But if you're coming to the Chicago midwinter meeting, stop by. We're going to have some, different things broadcasting from there. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Bob. Thanks for letting me be part of this. I appreciate it.
This has been a production of Dentistry in General Radio Network. Visit our website, dentistryingeneral.com, to join engaging clinical and business conversations, explore our dental podcasts, and stay updated on our upcoming live event.